Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Farmer Sense Podcast. I am your host, Rick Willard, and with me is Andrew Fuff. How you doing, Andrew?
Hi, Rick. You are the masked bandit today, and it makes me nervous.
Yeah. Well, my face is all screwed up. For any of you that watching on YouTube, you'll see why something bad happened.
I didn't want to say it, but just
Yeah,
kind of
my
obvious.
face.
I mean,
it's my face in general. I know.
Yeah. I was gonna be nice, try something new. I'm trying out something new. Turn over a new leaf, trying to be nice.
I was tired of looking like I was 43 years old all the time, so I thought, let's get rid of that gray beard.
Turn back the clock.
Yeah, it's like I want to look like I'm just graduating from high school. So I went ahead, and Andrew's never seen me without a beard before, so that's why I'm masked. So yeah, my wife was pretty shocked too. But
it's probably been a while since she's seen you without a mask.
A mask?
Or a mask? Nah, without a beard. Sorry, same difference. Oh yeah, look
Isn't
at that guy.
Crazy? Ain't that like a little kid? I don't even have a chin. Well, my face is fat because I am, but yeah.
Oh, I have like 9 chins, so
you can't even tell. There's like no transition from my chin to my neck. There's like no line. Ain't that?
That's weird, man. I like it. It's hilarious. Amy's probably like, man, now I'm with this young man. I'm tear up the town tonight.
Ava started barking at me. She's never seen me without a beard either. She's like, who the hell is that?
What happens?
Yeah, this is me. This is the 18-year-old Rick.
Nice.
Well, I was thinner then, so I was a little more attractive, but it doesn't matter anymore because I'm married, so I don't have to be good looking. Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
you want to talk about what we did this week? We spent some quality time together.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I went and looked at sprayers in Michigan. So I left my house Sunday morning at like 10:42 or whatever I said. And we went 1,237 miles. I picked up Rick in Iowa City. We went up through Michigan, came back through Indiana, Illinois, and back to Iowa. And we did it in 36 hours and 9 minutes from my driveway to driveway. So that's a lot of miles.
Mm-hmm. I didn't have to drive any.
But you did get some ice cream.
I did. We stopped at Cold Stone Creamery.
Yep.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. That was I could have muted the mic there, but yeah, I hadn't been to a Cold Stone. I couldn't tell you how many years it's been. So yeah, that was a good treat. Thanks, Andrew, for buying that.
Oh yeah, no, you're welcome. Thanks for going. It was nice to have somebody that knew about sprayers, since I don't know shit about a lot of things. So it was good to have Rick there and look one over. I did see some interesting stuff on some of those sprayers that we did look at that not really interested in.
Yeah, even if you don't know anything about sprayers, some of that was pretty obvious.
Yeah, I don't know how the hell you break the stainless steel grommets that bolt the tank to the Hagee sprayer, but they had cracked all the welds around that tank.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wow, somebody hit something hard.
Yeah, I had never seen that either. So yeah, there was definitely a lot of bouncing or something going on there. A lot of it could have been going down the road with it at like road speed full.
Yeah. You don't recommend that?
No. Well, you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to. Yeah. Weight wise, you're not okay. Bridge, you can't bridge it and everything. So there are stipulations to that. I remember when I was on the co-op, there was, I don't know how many years ago it was, they made some laws where you couldn't fill up and drive it down the road, but
hot loads and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But there's always a fear of an accident, springing a leak,
Yeah.
You don't know what product you have on all the time, and then you got to have the DNR come out and assess it and clean it up or whatever sometimes. So
right.
Yep. Just got to be careful.
Let's talk about planning progress. You want to start?
Well, I have no progress, so I don't have anything.
Well, you planted some beans, so you have some beans in, but I think we talked about that last week.
Yeah, half the beans are done. I haven't planted in 13 days.
Same.
Yep. Yeah.
Anything emerging?
There were some beans that got shallow planted in the field driveway, but the rest of them 2 days ago when it was dry enough to look at them or go out in the field, they were about an inch from coming through, but I planted them 2.5 inches deep.
Oh, wow. You got after it with the beans then, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Deep. Wow.
Yep. They're still coming. They'll come.
Yeah.
Not too worried about it.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, you did it.
Some of them can break their necks if they get some hard spots or whatever, but
yeah.
I planted 110,000, so I'm willing to risk a few.
Yep. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I haven't planted. My corn is emerging. Looks like complete dog shit. Sorry for the French there, but I am not happy with emergence. I am not happy with my emergence. I don't know if it's just me, and it might be, but I have a crust, and it's been raining like every other day, and I have a 3/4 inch crust. I don't know if it's from the strip till being so fine because it was so dry when I did it. And then when we got those rains, it just packed the living shit out of it. Because
if you got some hard rains, it would have. But when it's dry,
I don't know. But anyway, I mean, my DeKalb seed guy was out yesterday, Brent Means, and we went and we walked some and dug some, and just no rhyme or reason why it's not coming. I mean, we found one that was down 2.5 inches where we put it, and it's got a sprout on it, but it's a tiny sprout, and the rest of it's up next to it. There's no gap. There's no like, I want to say pockets of air, and it's just freaking hard. So I'm not really sure what happened, and I don't know. We're gonna give it a couple more days, but
you didn't test any of the seed ahead of time, did you?
I did not.
Cold germ, right? I'm guessing it's a germ issue if it's like
it's that. Random as hell, and it's not just one number. It's the guys that planted early before that cold snap. Their crop looks amazing, and I'm like to the point where I said this last year. I said, I don't give a shit about the cold planting stuff because it didn't affect those guys at all last year. Right. And here I am another year and being patient, waiting for ground temperatures to come up. And then my stand comes up looking like complete shit. And I'm like, got to look across the fence to really good looking corn. So I don't know what to do differently, but I'm not in a good mood, to be honest with you. Especially where I spent the time putting the blocks underneath each freaking or under the planter to make sure the depth was right. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. And then my stand looks like complete shit. Not happy.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. So
yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, it's just too bad that we don't save back handfuls of seed or whatever so we can send it in and have it tested. I haven't planted any corn yet, so now you're giving me that idea, but I'm guessing by the time I plant it, the soil temp's going to be 60 degrees and above because it's going to be a while yet. But
my soil temp was 58 degrees when I planted.
What did it get down to during though? Did it ever drop?
Afterwards, it got down to like 52.
Okay.
But it wasn't the 46 or whatever that the guys that planted early. It's the crusting. I mean, it washed on flat bottoms, my strip till. I don't know if it came from the sides and that rain just pushed it over to the seed. I hit my mic cord there, but
so you got a piss pound. You must have got a piss pounder then to.
We did, and I'm not. I mean,
you didn't have any heat though. You didn't have any hot days where it baked afterwards.
No, but I think it's the wind. I think the wind was so, it was 70 degrees, which isn't cold, but a nice day with really, gusty winds. It dried it out so fast. And I think that's what caused the crust. But it was too wet to get in there and rotary hoe or whatever you want to say. I mean, it's just fucking irritating. maybe I should go to a class and learn about my marketing and merchandising more so than running my planter, because I've been learning about planter setup for 2 years now, and obviously I screwed something up, or the Mother Nature didn't give a shit. So
I don't think it was a planter setup issue.
Neither, but it's just frustrating. So you want to talk about our guest this week? Sorry, I went on a rant there. So
no, that's good. That was a good segue. So yeah, as far as learning how to market and the way markets work, yeah, kind of above and beyond what some brokers probably teach you or don't teach you. I don't know. But yeah, Jeff Kazin and Mike Rohlfsen with Agris Academy, they were our guests, and they have a pretty cool thing going. They're trying to help farmers learn more about just the life and movement of grain, right? I mean, just kind of, they both worked for Cargill, and they kind of know the ins and outs of buying and selling on the commercial side, and how it affects us down here, and how we should think the same way commercial.
Right. And I mean, that's what they kind of said. Today is Friday, the 10th of May, and we got a crop report today. Well, shit, they're not even worried about the crop report because they know it's already been pretty well traded. They know they talk about how they know the analyst, who's doing the report, how they typically come out with numbers, whatever you want to say. So they pretty much know how the report's coming out.
Yep, that has probably been traded weeks ago already. Yeah.
So the farmer so far behind in the actual news cycle that it really puts them at a disadvantage. And that's what these guys kind of teach and talk about. And it was a really great interview, I thought. And I mean, I'm interested in learning more and possibly signing up for that class. So
yeah, after listening to him, I actually became younger.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I shaved off my gray beard. But
yeah. You went back in time so you become a better marketer? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
I like that.
I did the opposite of stressing out after listening to them. I actually, it was like the fountain of youth for me.
I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I look like my nephew. I think he's 10. Yeah, definitely similarities there now. So
at least your voice hasn't cracked yet.
Nope.
It's so good to see you guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I guess that's kind of it, because I don't have any exciting news, nothing I want to talk about anyway. So
all right. Well, kick it off to the interview, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Yeah, everybody enjoy. And make sure you like and subscribe and share and all that fun stuff. And Web Western Wear discount is Farmer Sense 10. You get 10% off if you go to Web Western Wear. And yeah, I guess that's it. So everybody take care. We're going to end this now, and check out Jeff and Mike. Thank you. Today we have with us Mike. Well, we'll edit this. How do you pronounce your last name, Mike?
Rohlfsen.
Rohlfsen. Okay, that's what I would have said. And then Jeff Kazin.
Yeah.
So yeah, today we have with us Mike Rohlfsen and Jeff Kazin with Agris Academy. We're very happy to have them on here. Yeah, how are you guys doing today?
Doing great.
Doing great.
Well,
Jeff, could use
needs a dry patch, but
yeah, that's it. It's like a lot of farmers at this point. We could have used another 48 hours of or more of dry, but then I'd be complaining about a drought, right? So,
yep, exactly.
You know how it is.
So Jeff thought he might be coming to us from the tractor today, but he ended up getting some rain. So we have him from his place, which is good, because sometimes we get audio issues with tractor stuff. We have in the past. So this was okay. This worked out good for everybody, I think. And yeah, I hate to complain about rain, especially in Iowa, because we didn't get much the last couple of years. We had a lot of timely rains. We still had very good yields considering, but I've been very welcome of this, and I hope I know it's been soaking down. It hasn't been running away, but we still need we have plenty of topsoil moisture right now, but we're going to need it for late season if we don't get any rains, that's for sure. So
Sure.
Yeah. So back to Agris Academy and kind of what you guys do. So it's a different type of or why is it a different type of broker advisor type thing? So let's kind of talk about what it is first, and then why is it different from everybody else? And either one of you guys can take it from there.
Jeff, this is all yours, man.
It's all mine.
Go
Yeah.
for it.
So I did, a long career as a head of trading, and I also loved to farm, right? And one of the things I knew coming out is how competitive and how difficult it got to be to trade at a very high level, right? With lots of hundreds of millions of dollars behind you, hundreds of people behind you to consistently trade futures. And so we knew we did not want to go into the advisor or the brokerage side. I will bet any amount of money that there is no one out here that will consistently, particularly in very efficient markets like we effectively enjoy in CME, you're never going to win. It's not going to happen. I can guarantee you. Mm-hmm. And so we wanted to do something different. We knew there was a lot of money being left on the table. We didn't want to be another broker advisor. I knew it wasn't going to work. And so we started an education business because we saw there, and I was explaining to Mike that there's a gap. Nobody teaches in two spaces, the real merchandising skills, just like your elevator. Like when I was teaching a new merchant coming in, we teach a set of skills. Nobody was teaching that at a very high level. We went out and surveyed the ag schools, and most of them have a class, but it's super basic for the kids coming through the ag schools. And we knew that there was a lot of money being left on the table, and that money was going to in my opinion, the wrong side of the ledger, right? The farmer takes all the risk. I'm a farmer. I understand it. And there was too much money slipping either to the market or to the commercial side. And just with education, not taking on additional risk, we can get a lot more money to stick to the farm side of the business. And the second piece of it was in the trading side, because we have a futures piece, right? I just told you, you're never going to win. It was got to be very difficult for me to win in my career with a lot of resources, but there are a set of best practices that the world's best traders use and they stick to, and we teach that. So on the merchandising side, we teach skills, and on the risk management side, we teach best practices. And there's just nobody operating in that space at the level. And we got the company started, and it took off.
And I'll throw in one little thing there too. When the definition of win is just that 50-50 reality of these hyper efficient markets. When Jeff says win, it's really any more than that 50-50 coin flip at any one time. And what we always do, whether it's informal discussions with people the first time or it's absolute class number one, it's subject one in class one in our merchant master classes, to literally prove it in the numbers. If you look at the in the money market moment at any one time, and you go down the put and call side of either side, and symmetrically either side of the in the money, those things are absolutely at the exact same price, plus minus a quarter cent at any one time, just showing just how hyper efficient the bulls are pushing this way and the bears are pushing this way. And as Jeff said, we had all the resources in the world when we were trading what we were trading. And Cargill makes money in relative value and moving things around and doing the physical side at as high level as anyone, not really in the future side. So
yeah. So does Cargill do they or can they speculate, or are they just strictly hedging?
No, I'm not gonna. Let's move it away from just Cargill. But the way that generally works in the commodity business, right, is it's lightning tight margins. Mm-hmm. So you have to be extremely good and extremely disciplined, or you go out of business, right?
Right.
And so, but when you run in these businesses that are extremely tight in their commodity margin of processing, whether that's flour milling or making ethanol, just handling grain, you have two pieces of the puzzle. You have the physical part of your business, which is making products or flour, or fructose or whatever, ethanol. And then you have what they call monetizing intellectual property. So if you're one of the big grain companies, right, you create a lot of information and data, and what you hope to do is aggregate that data from your physical businesses, whether that's feeding, poultry in South America or moving grain around the world or running flour mills in the U.S. You try to monetize that intellectual property. That is the trading piece of the puzzle. And I would say most of the commercials try to leverage their physical business to gain an interest and insight into that futures direction. But even that, think about that, it's just gotten to be extremely challenging because the world's changed, right? Information's gotten cheaper. Mm-hmm. It's gotten more distributed. I can remember, looking at, NDVI satellite stuff, which was just cutting edge when I started my career. And today that comes to your cell phone free, mm-hmm. right? You think about what it paid. So the markets have gotten ever more competitive, even for the professional traders. And then of course, there's a lot of people that are using these markets today that aren't fundamentally based. So when you're a big grain trader, processor, mover, your advantage comes in the fundamental side. Well, now you have a lot of players that aren't necessarily using those futures markets for fundamental reasons.
A lot of managed money and black box stuff that comes in and out that's extremely hard to, know what their bias is or what their mandate is for being in there at the time, which, has always maybe been around a little bit, but it's more and more of a thing too.
So it's gotten a lot harder.
You talk about, the NDVI and getting it on your cell phone. Well, yeah, I have a trading account on my cell phone. It's real time. I mean, I can trade futures just boom, boom, boom all the time, and not having the knowledge or the education to do it. So how much have people like me with no knowledge affected the markets nowadays? Do we see bigger swings, or do we see more of the people knowing what they're doing, making money because of people like me out there? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know that you would be considered like a retail trader or retail investor. And I hate to tell you that that was the marketplace loves you because you're going to be slower, absolutely. And the farmer falls into that category, right?
Because we get all the information way late, right? I mean, by the time we get it, the market's probably already traded it. I mean, is that
many times over? Yeah. So what happens, right? Of course, is here I am farming, right? And I'm also, we're watching, right? So today, these are some of the examples we use. Like, so when the Chinese come in, right? First off, the Chinese own. We lost Mike.
We did lose Mike.
It's okay. He'll come back.
Which he's in town. Yeah. So when you look at, we do the Chinese example here, like, so Chinese also, they own grain companies now, right? They trade their own futures, right? So if I was the Chinese, put yourself in the shoes of you're the head of the Chinese, you're Kafka or and you're out there. Look at what you do, right? You would actually go take positions in the futures market before you ever came in. And then when you wanted to go buy grain, say you wanted to buy, 10 Panamaxes each. So 50 Panamaxes of grain, right? 100 million bushels, whatever. And you would sit there and go, well, I'm going to go take a position and then I'll tender for it. I won't tell anybody I'm going to take 10 times 5. I'll just say I'm in for 10, right? And maybe I'll take all of them, or maybe I'll take none of them, or maybe I'll buy twice as many futures, right? And so as soon as that call gets made, then the commercials start taking their positions, right? And then they might leak it out, right? Hey, the Chinese are in, right? But after they've already put their positions on, they want everybody else to join, right? That there's and by the time you hear like the Chinese are in or the Chinese bought this, right, or that, it could be 2 or 3 weeks old. If you read it in a farm magazine, it's a month old, right, or more, right? And so we really try to move farms away from the speculative side. People sit there and you're going to ask us, let's just get, if you want to know, hey, what's the secret, right? What's the, moving from that mind that you're going to be a speculator for the farm and you're going to become the risk manager of the farm. Very different. If you want the first magic bullet, right, we'll use some common language here. The first one is to move that mindset. The problem is we can go through this and we can demonstrate, we'll be on this podcast. No one gets it on the first try. It is extremely hard to transfer your mindset from trying to sell the high, speculate, praying, right? On the futures risk management side, to becoming a risk manager for the farm, it takes a different mindset, a different set of best practices. And that's that's where we get started in Agris Academy. So there's no one silver bullet that going to make you a significantly better market, but that would be one of the first steps. You got to get there, because you are not going. It is not a fair game. Okay, to the individual out on the farm, you're not going to win. You're not. I hate to say this. We don't. It's tough to be an advisor. If it was hard for me, it's hard. I know, right? It's one of the first things. It's a true story. I have a hedge account for my farming operation. Very comfortable with it. And as soon as they knew that I was free to go ahead and trade on my own, because there's a ban on that, right? If you work for one of the majors, you're not allowed to go out and trade speculative. As soon as they're like, hey, let's open a spec account. We'll fill that up. We'll have. And I'm like, absolutely not, because I know what the odds are, right? And so for me, right, with all the experience in that, to say no way we're gonna open up a spec account, because I have a hedge account. You open up a different type of account in a spec. I was like, absolutely not. That will eventually lose. I will lose money for sure. It's there's no way for me to generate any interesting insights from my position. Even if I sat there and read every ounce of material that was available that I could scrounge up, you're still not anywhere near competing with the largest. And even they are struggling, right? Because of the nature of data and how it's changed.
So that example of maybe what you guys do, I'm going to ask this question to see if I'm on the same page, but Jeff, for example, we're in peer groups together, and we know that if we tissue sample for X amount of years, we kind of get a roadmap of what corn or soybean plant needs at different times of the year. Is that what Agris Academy is teaching a person as far as marketing or hedging, or just knowing what's happening certain times a year and how basis works, how all these different things come together? Is that kind of what you do?
So kind of twofold, split it. We spend a ton of time on the merchandising side, how we teach you to run your farming operation like a grain business, right? You have
which many of them have the same infrastructure at this point, really.
Right.
There's no reason
that, right?
Okay.
So we go into the gory details, right? Everything on interest rate, shrink storage, how basis is formulated, we teach a whole section on negotiations. So I think we're jumping around a little bit about, so we have that is kind of the details on the physical side, and then on the futures risk management side, because there's a physical side of marketing grain, unhedgeable grains. Then there's a separate piece, which is this thing about managing futures and futures risk. But we don't worry about, we don't believe in timing. We don't believe in seasonality, because if I was a trader and there was a seasonality, I would trade the arbitrage out, right? If I knew it was going to do X at this time of the season, on this date, I would always trade Y, right? And I'd just do it.
And it would
self-correct. If I knew it was going to, and it would self-correct, right? And that's what's happened, and that has happened. If there was this type of, they get arbitraged out. So the way Mike and I set out to do, and let's just start with, maybe we'll take this a little bit on a road of, we decided to start the company. And so the way we started it out is we took a half dozen what we call retained clients from around the Corn Belt. And they stretch everywhere from South Dakota all the way to Central Ohio. And we set that up to get the business rolling, and we learned a ton. We got out on the farm. We're out on the farm 3 times. We taught across the kitchen table. We went to the shop offices, and it were full day sessions. And they are full day sessions, and it's a commitment. And in that commitment, Mike and I, it's a 2-year deal, and we work on, we're not there forever. And we went out and worked on that. And what we did is every time we left, we would write down notes. We're like, yeah, that was great. Yeah. Because there's a little bit of getting into what do people really need to know. And so we did this for, most of the first year. And we were like, you know what, we've got to find a way to get to growers that is lower cost, right? It's less travel, and can be easily available, right? And so last winter we put on our first master class, And we had about 50 participants in that master class. So Mike and I taught twice a week, 2 hours a shot, plus we'd have the after session, right, to go into anything that we wanted at the table for probably another hour, or another ag issue that came up, somewhere to hold that. And what we did is we laid that out, right? So you're talking about 20 sessions, and you can get really deep. And nobody put on that class. So we basically have to get out to that grower. We have our retained clients, which we only take a half dozen a year. That's because it's a tremendous amount of work to do well. And you got to know the farm, and you got to know the personalities, and we're not advising. All we do is teach. We're going to teach a lifetime skill, and then they're going to, that ours is not to be there forever. And then of course the class lets us teach a lot more people. And it was a ton of fun, because you see people out there, it's a night class, right? You think about going to school, they ever took a night class, and the farmers are out there, and it's dead, they're done in the dead of winter. And you kind of get to know the people behind it, and and everybody's an adult. It's just like a college class, except for there are no exams. Mm-hmm. And there's no. We do give homework, right? And it turned out to be just a lot of fun. And I joke with Mike, I go, yeah, if we road trip, now we're gonna have lots of places to go hang out, farms that are gonna go want to have lunch or have a drink in the off season. We're scattered all over the belt now, because you just get to know that. And then we get out on the speaking tour a bit, some in the summer, at different shows. And then, we get brought in as a keynote speaker periodically. We do a little bit of that too. We also have a commercial side of the business where we go and help companies that are consumers of commodity products that need to understand how to hedge their risk or manage their risk so they can make margins. What's the best practice. But we love our producer side of the business. It's fun. Mike and we love to be out on the farm. That's probably our favorite.
Yeah, and one other thing on the master class, just to for those that are listening, that Jeff mentioned sort of the live nature of it and the online nature of it, but we do set up for all of our students to have access to all 20 classes, both, as they roll out, but also for a month or so after the class, just to catch up if life gets in the way, or vacations get in the way, or kids' sports get in the way. And we're sort of, to talk about the college class analogy, we have office hours in season as well. So if something isn't resonating, or, quite frankly, a lot of times we got into farm management questions or merchandising specific questions to whatever's going on in their area, pull us aside for 30 minutes some point during the week when it works for both of us, and let's bang that out.
Gotcha. My question is, when did you guys actually start Agris Academy? How long has this been around?
We're at
November, December of 22.
Okay.
So just under 2 years. Yeah, it has its origins, and you guys will like this, right? There's a few things that happened, and so we said, okay, we're going to do this. This is obviously an unmet need. One was we were out on social media. I was out on social media, and there was a guy down in the Carolinas, big plantation farm, and he was flexing a little bit, right? He had a really nice grain setup, beautiful thing, and they were just getting ready to start corn harvest, and I think it must have been August, right? This corn harvest comes early, and all I could think of at the time was, it's probably $1.50 inverse at this point. I'm like, the only thing that grain elevator should store is air.
And not just and this year, but 9.9 out of every 10 seasons.
Right. Mike and I understand this. And there's complications to that. And so I was IMing back and forth. He was a super nice guy. And I just, hey, you should think about this. And then all of a sudden it goes, well, we don't have enough trucks, to handle harvest. And I'm like, hire trucks, right?
Right.
And then, you don't know. And then he was like, well, we have these contracts. We made them for December, because that's when we have time to haul it ourselves. And I'm like, roll the contracts, right? Roll them from December, roll them early. They love, Smithfield wants his corn early, and they love truck grain. Mike
it's
and I
still cheaper than rail.
So you don't have to buy an entire, 360,000 bushels or something per shot coming on a unit train. You buy these trucks, right? One, just in time. So that was one. And I finally gave up, right? Because at some point you just kind of like, this is the internet.
And I'll throw one thing on that, just to add to Jeff's point, my last main role, I managed the East U.S. corn position for Cargill, and I used to curse the North Carolina corn harvest because it would shut my trains off for 4 to 6 weeks. It would be a real difficult thing for the rest of the world to trade around. So yeah, to Jeff's point, that every single kernel hitting the combine should go to a feed mill dump as quick as humanly possible. Again, basically 100% of the time forevermore, and shouldn't ever hit storage.
So that was a merchandising thing, right? That just take an understanding of merchandising principles, right? I figured that was $750,000 issue.
Yeah.
On that
so
it was a big farm, right?
Yeah. My question would be, do you say that just for the North Carolina corn crop, or do you say that just in general for the Midwest too?
No. It depends upon the year.
Yep.
No. It just depends upon the year, right? So we teach things like we go through and we teach everything. We'll teach we go through all the major contract types. What are your marketing alternatives? But we break them down. We get rid of the brand names, right? And what do they really do to your position, and what's your risk, and how does it manage it? And then we teach in this type of market, this is the right tool to pull out of the box, right? We try to get the toolbox as full as we can for our clients, and then we turn around and then they learn, okay, we get to pull, and then we practice in real time. Like, a lot of, they had grain all winter, right, during the class. Obviously, our retained clients to go through, and even there's intersections between if you get to be a really good merchandiser, it'll change how you farm, right? It'll change about which hybrids you pick, which varieties you pick, what's your strategy. What we go through every August, we'll go through and be out on the farm. We go through a storage kind of situation, and how are we going to manage it? We tell them that really good merchandising starts before the crop ever gets planted. You need to be that far ahead, and it's not about selling futures, right? We're not talking about futures. We're talking about how you manage your operation, the intersection between your operation. There's an intersection between your merchandising and your agronomy on a farm, and you can get more out of the assets you already have if you add this skill, but nobody's teaching it. And so we got back and we're like, okay. And then there's another thing happened. There was 2 more real big events. Another one was we had a fellow farmer that you guys might know, and in Minnesota, and he's out, we're combining, and I'm the emergency grain cart driver. Okay. When I'm not going to drive cart because, Ryan Hefty says I got to be $100 an hour or I'm not doing it right. And if you ever hear him speak, and, but I was in, and he's like, well, we're shut down because here it is, end of November, the corn, he's the last one, right? And he's got the grain contracted, all the space is full, and the ethanol plant just says, we're going to shut down for 2 weeks. And I know what happened. They overbought, because if I was the merchant of the ethanol plant, that's what I would do, because that's the cheapest basis of the year. And then I bet that somebody doesn't show up with the grain. And their solution was, well, go sell that grain out of the field spot, which is like the lowest basis of the year, right? The end of harvest. And then you can deliver the corn you owe me the first week of December out of your bins. Which, no, that's the highest carry of the year, right? And I said, look, that's not how this is going to work. There's a set of rules when you make a contract, right? And there's, if you can't take the grain, then there's a set of procedures to be followed, right? And so kind of leveling the playing field, we talk about getting the playing field level. Mike can tell you great stories about working in the Ukraine. We are big fans of, you don't know until you've found a farm or work in some other part of the world, how fortunate we are in the U.S. to have all these grain buyers and commercials. I know we complain, right? We like to complain, but they are so important, right? They give us outlets. We get paid, right? We're getting our money. We get it on time. We generally don't have, we don't have a 4-hour trek out of the Brazilian highlands, right? To haul grain. You send a guy out and you'll see him in a week, kind of thing. We just have this infrastructure blessing out there. But,
and the price information that comes from the CME every single day. That's the most synthesized price point of the global price of corn and soybeans and wheat of anywhere in the world.
Yeah. So this finally, it did get resolved, but it was leveling the playing field, teaching them, hey, here are the rules. Here's how you go about it. Look, okay, if you can't take it, then we're going to cancel my contract at this, and we're going to resell it at this, and everybody's going to be whole, right? And they worked it out, right? Because when we teach people how to negotiate, we teach them how to talk to the same language as your buyer, and I think the buyers appreciate it too, right? They appreciate having that better conversation. And the third reason we always cite when we started the business, and this is the one that just drives me insane, farmers get sold a lot of BS. There's just a lot of, hey, the market's going higher for this, or this, or we always we pick on the algorithm, right? Hey, my algorithm, if you had an algorithm that really worked, Mike and I are headed to a beach, okay, in some really low tax place,
zero tax,
Hammond's, wherever, right? We're gonna wake up poolside, trade a little bit, make sure the algorithms, add money to my piggy bank, right? And we mortgaged the farm, right? If we knew it was gonna work, it just, I get frustrated with people who take advantage. Farming has been awfully good to me, good to my family, good to my wife. Was in the industry for quite a while. And I just get so frustrated. I'm like, okay, we're going to level this playing field. We're going to start an education and consulting business. And we're going to focus on where we see from Mike and I's combined career, where is the money slipping to the wrong side of the ledger. And
and one of the big aha moments, I think, for a lot of our farm customers is just to understand not just the function of basis, but how the other side is incentivized. And it's, almost exclusively through basis. And then once they see the world in that lens, it definitely changes, again, the discussion pieces and that kind of thing, and understanding how you as a farmer can leverage those discussions. And when you talk basis, they treat you differently. It's not what are you paying for corn? It's what is your basis? And that's definitely the kind of one major initial step in leveling that discussion and being treated differently, call by call with your buyers.
Right. So this is something I have been looking for since I was probably 18 and didn't go to college. I've always wanted to have a course or something in this kind of marketing or merchandising, carry, basis, all this stuff. I mean, this is things that, first of all, I love this. I'm going to sign up. There's no doubt about it. But there are, I've sat on elevator boards before, and there are board members on there that don't know all this stuff. And just to have a company have their board of directors sit through this training would be great, because they could ask questions to the grain buyer. And I don't know. This is just, I love that. I love this whole conversation. I know we're jumping all over the place, but that's
I think
me and Andrew roll. We just kind of go.
Industry, no, it's totally fine. Industry partners is sort of another subsegment within the producer world. So yes, the co-ops, we're having a lot of broad dialogue with different types of ag-oriented banks. Again, it would be very valuable, not only for their customers to maybe be a more creditworthy counterpart, but also for the bankers themselves. So to understand merchandising 101 and how to have better and more thoughtful conversations in your funding discussions, and get a vibe of who's doing it right, or even get a vibe of maybe there's some yellow flags out there that aren't being managed properly. So
yeah, I think you're exactly right.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I think you're exactly right. I would love my banker, Mike. I'd love you to sit through this, because I know there's a lot of bankers out there that don't know these contracts and maybe rely on certain individuals to kind of lead other producers through it. It's nice to have an option where you can go to an academy and learn it for yourself as a banker, as well as a farmer, so you can help your producers. And what do you feel? Is there like a condensed course for some of these people? I think I've kind of read
for bankers, we could do that, time agnostic. What's nice about bankers is they're, obviously maybe some of them farm, but we in our direct to producer world, we have to deal with that seasonality that can get us, in dead zones at times. Whereas with the bank side, I mean, just name your time, and we would love to have 1 day, 2 day seminars or that kind of thing.
Yeah, we can do 1 days with the bank or 2 days seminars. We've gone out and actually we've done some 1 day kind of I don't call it a deep dive flash on the farm. We don't do a lot of them, very time consuming, but if we're in an area and we've made a relationship, we might go and look at, hey, what are they doing? What are they doing well? Here's some things you need to really focus on the farm. We try to fill up our schedule as we're moving around the country. And like I said, we go into some of the banking and some of the speaking, the banks or the speaking kind of things. That's what we'll do during the summer months. When, obviously as a farmer, we're busy, and Mike and I will split that up because I have my own farming operations. And I think, understanding the farm side myself and having a passion for it, I think that helps make sure that we teach, we make sure that we teach at a level that, anybody could understand. And we tell a story. Mike still has it. When we used to get these kids out of college coming to be merchants, they'd show up with these cool like graphing calculators, sine, cosine, da da da. And the first day, grab the calculator, throw it in a trash can, send them to Best Buy. I go, I want you to get the simplest calculator.
$9.99, the Solar Casio.
The Solar Casio with the big keys. There it is, right? That's all you need. I said, we're going to make money with plus, minus, multiply, divide, maybe a memory key. I said, we're not going to make any money with the square root or the sine function here. I said, it's going to be speed and getting really good at these, these data, and then being, super precise. And we bring that whole mindset to the farm. We can teach this, and with a full course behind us, plus, the now dozen retained clients we carry around the country, we're getting pretty good at it. And like I said, it's unlike working for a corporation. When you were working with a farm and you say, hey, they're like, hey, here's what we're going to do. And we'll ask 6 questions. This is a retained client. Did you check this? Did you check this? Do this? Okay. Then they'll go, okay, go try this strategy. Right. And they'll go out and offer that grain. And we talk about bundling grain and how that looks and how to create mutual value. This is not necessarily a win-lose situation between the buyer and you. And when it works, nobody in corporate America, no family member, no equity holders calling me up and saying, that worked and that was so awesome, right? This is so much more rewarding working with these families. And let's face it, it's farm families, right? They may be set up as a corporation, but they're families. And you get the unsolicited text. There's a real appreciation. And it's very apparent. It's actually even better than like the agronomy side of my farm, because I know if I do X and Y and I get 10 cents more a bushel, it's very apparent, right? It's dollars that go straight to the bank account. It's not always apparent, right? When we're out there testing this hybrid versus that hybrid, and what other data came in, right? Why did this plot or trial, do this or that? We don't always hit it right. So it's a ton of fun to get that fast feedback.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm just I don't even know the next question to ask. I'm just soaking it all up, to be honest with you.
Well, I'll maybe add to your awe, Rick. I know when Jeff and I were sitting around sipping some Maker's Mark in his barn talking about this, I was somewhat skeptical. Cargill, you're kind of trained to be skeptical, and in my life in venture capital is trained to be skeptical. I'm just like, you're telling me that no one is teaching this? And he's right. And I tell you, that 0 to 60 that you see when we get deeply engaged with some of these producers of how much progress they can make by just getting, a handful of things kind of right off the bat is just, there's been a couple times where, Jeff and I are walking back to the truck after a day with folks, and I just look at them and I go, I love my job. I really do, because it is you're truly changing this. It's a knowledge asset that gets built within those teams, and something that they can carry on forever. We have a lot of really just interesting discussions too with folks that are either multi-generational or multi-team member, and you just sort of see everybody starting to get it, and you really see that when they're done with us, they're going to be a materially different operation.
Yeah, if you think about, in our retained clients, we get some real interesting. First, I don't know, don't count out women, by the way, the women in ag, right? A number of our clients are very, very strong women that really get it, right? And are very good at this, and, very attentive to the details and make it happen. So a number of our customers are A number of customers this was kind of a little bit maybe surprising. It used to be if two brothers came out of the farm, right, they went off and started their own farm, right? Today, those two brothers figure out how to work together. We have 4 brothers working together. We have cousins that work together. And one of the things in farming is you get a specialization on these bigger farms. And what happens is we want them all to sit at the table to get a base knowledge. Normally what happens is one person becomes the grain marketer. Somebody's got to be accountable, right? And that's actually a very good piece of the puzzle, right? But to have the rest of the group kind of understand why we're doing something. So the example I'll give is last fall, we're working with a client. We're looking at, some September corn coming out on some really sandy ground. And they're all like, yeah, we're going to harvest whatever, 3rd week of September. And I'm like, no, you need to harvest tomorrow, right? And here is why. And because they all had been at these meetings and the classes, they're not going to be the most knowledgeable, but they understood why we were doing what they were doing and what the benefits of getting everybody on board to hit that panic button, to get going 3 weeks earlier. Now that turned out to be a very, very good maneuver on a number of levels. There was also, obviously, we were chasing a very high spot market in early September last fall. That's what we were chasing, but it also came, it freed up time. It freed up some grain handling systems because we got rain and we needed those systems to dry beans later in the year. There was just all these good things, but teaching the group. We have legacy customers. So dad, it wants to move away from managing the farm, and this is his gift, literally to that next generation. To get that. We just have that very vast difference of type of client. We had a wife give the class, our classes, as a Christmas present. Her husband was starting to farm at a relatively small scale, and she's like, we saw you guys speak, and we really he's a learning kind of guy, and next thing you know, there he is in the class. He's a little bit behind, he plays catch up. So our client base is really it's really it's pretty diverse. We have farms that are over 10,000 acres, and we have farms that are 500.
We even had one.
It doesn't take long, to pay it back, right? There's just so much money being left on the table.
Yeah, we have one student in the class.
Farm, it becomes a bit of a differentiation, and we hear that, and they're like, well, it doesn't, it's a penny a bushel, and you're going to deliver 1 million bushels of grain, right? It's $10,000, and but it's not a penny a bushel, right? And just like growing great crops, and what we've learned. I'm also in some peer groups and working on the agronomy side of our farming operation. It's not that you're going to do one thing, it's you're going to layer them, right? It's doing a whole bunch of little things good that adds up to 20, 30 cents a bushel. And then it's every year, right? It's repeating. And it doesn't really matter about the market, the future.
Bull market, bear market, fairy market, invert market. These are core tenets that repeat year after year after year.
That kind of leads into my next question is, all right, so if I sign up for your program, what does it look like as a new attendee, I guess is what or student?
Yeah.
And how do you put a price on that knowledge to get the return on investment for joining the class? Because you kind of just hit on, it's the so many cents.
You want to take this one, Mike?
Yeah. So, I think Jeff said it earlier. We wanted to make the price point impactful enough to where you sort of force yourself to put the time in because you're paying the money, but also affordable enough to where you just have overwhelming value that darn well you'll get your money back and then some. So the way we've set it up for this year is $100 to get you signed up. And then we'll probably have a early bird special here and there at some point, late summer or early fall, to sort of finalize our signups. And we will fill up this year, I'm 100% sure. And that'll be a little over $2,000 all in. And Jeff was talking about some of the smaller customers. Obviously, you can easily, as a producer of any scale, see how you're going to immediately get 2, 3, 4, 5, 10x on that. If you just put the time in and focus in and learn these things. But we even had we had a great customer who liked it so much he's going again in the fall. But yeah, he's an airline pilot. And he's always wanted to farm, and he's got a couple 100 acres, and he's so even at that scale, we see people that see that justified. So it will not break the bank, but we also wanted to price it at a point to where people won't screw off or not show up or that kind of thing. So,
right. Yeah, we wanted to have it high enough to make sure that people were committed, but low enough that it made it super available to a wide swath of farms. I think we hit that. We modeled. I actually saw some people that Purdue puts on a bunch of ag classes. We did a bunch of work on thinking about how to price it. We wanted to make, like I said, just if you say, okay, I'm going to deliver 200,000 bushels a year, total corn and beans, right? And then a penny a bushel covers the class, and that's if you wanted to get it paid in 1 year. But you're going to know this stuff for the rest of your life. And we transfer some intellectual property too. There's some things we transfer some calculators, and the biggest piece, I'm going to give you the second little nugget for this class. One of the absolute things that you have to do to be a good risk manager for your farm is know your position. Okay. Mike will tell you stories. If you didn't know your position and you were
terminatable offense,
terminatable offense, and it didn't matter what the computer system was doing to you. You're right. You can't manage risk that you can't see. We have yet to be on a farm. We're almost 2 years into it where the farm knew their risk position, and we work with some really well managed farms. There's just, there's been some efforts, and people get pieces of it to the point where we've had to develop our own tracking system. We didn't want to be in the IT business. But we had when we started, we were like, everybody had their own spreadsheet, and we don't want to disrupt it too much. And finally we were like, no, you're going to switch over to our sheet so we can have a meaningful conversation about what is your risk position and be very concise, because we got to cover a lot of ground. Everybody's busy. So if you want, if the first bullet, the first little silver bullet or the first nugget to get there was become a risk manager instead of a speculator. Not easily done, easily said. The second is understand your position. Understand exactly what it's doing to your futures risk, your basis risk, and all the pieces that go together, and make it consolidated. Nobody's doing it yet in the industry. We've been hunting around. We don't want to be software developers, but we haven't found a platform yet that is covering it completely. Lots of platforms out there cover, can manage your contracts, right? And there's lots of names out there, but nobody's, really taking it from the eye of a risk manager. So if a professional risk management company came in to run your farm, for your farm, this is the things you got to have in it. So that's the second piece. But it's amazing that we've been at this, and we've been on dozens of farms at this point, and we have not run into one that has everything put together.
Yeah, and I'll add to what Jeff said, and though I will maybe give a little bit of credit to a handful of our customers that are getting pretty darn good at this. And it dovetails, Andrew, to the point you made about the banker interaction. If you as a producer can utilize our position tracker that we've developed and basically lay it all out in one easy to read document, and have those discussions with your banker, I'm sure the banker's like, whoa, it's dare I say it's almost too good, because they might not understand it too, but it gets down to, your long short, your all the various different types of marketing alternatives you have on. It separates futures and basis. It has an options component that's normalized for the Greeks. And we even have again, utilizing that price curve we talked about, we teach this ability to, just like you've heard, like the bank stress risk tests that are out there, you can literally do the same thing with your grain to say, okay, what's my comfort level to say that the market's here, but it could be on either side of it in the future. And then what does that mean for my stress risk? And so you can take your existing positions and stress that for what the market's saying today is a reasonable plus or minus in terms of where the futures could go, and literally have in your head a pretty good idea of what you have at risk right now from a price perspective, which not only I think helps in banking relationships, but it helps you go to sleep at night to understand, maybe it's not nearly as bad as I thought it was, or maybe it is kind of bad, and maybe there's something I need to do tomorrow to make it not so bad.
Yeah, knowing your position and having it very accurately helps you deal with the psychological challenge, because that's the problem with futures. It's a psychological issue. There's nothing you're going to go out and learn that's going to make you a better futures trader. The market's way too efficient, and you've got better things to work on your farm. There's more things you can do in field maintenance or finance or utility. This one is, okay, let's deal with the psychology, and knowing where you are, right? Knowing exactly what your position is, that helps deal with the psychological stress, which allows you to make better decisions, right? Again, this is that best practice transfer. One of the best practices of the best futures traders in the world is they know their position every morning when they walk in. That's the first thing they're going to do, right? They're going to understand exactly what happened to their position overnight, and they're going to adjust accordingly. And we just have on the farms, we've got to get to a situation where we do that and do it efficiently, so we don't spend too much time at it, right? Because we've got a lot of things, a lot of jobs to do out on the farm these days.
Yeah, so I was with my banker last week. I think it's funny you brought this up, but I was trying to explain to her my hedging for the year, where I'm sitting, and I was like, well, we got this ladder thing, and we bought and sold this, and I was like, I know I'm sitting good, but I don't quite get it. Let me call up my broker and put him on speakerphone and have him explain it. So my broker's Brian Split, and great guy, very knowledgeable, and he's done very well for me. But even she couldn't, quite understand everything. But she's like, well, I know he knows what he's talking about. I know you're in a good position. So there, but, back to Andrew's point, just getting more educated on all of this stuff, and how, and then being a board of director and listening to your grain merchandiser come in and you just don't understand it. And then just everything about it. I love the whole idea. I'm glad that you guys do this. I know what your favorite part is. It's obviously making producers happy and making them money. I can tell that. What's your biggest frustration, other than maybe a producer not having their ducks in a row and not knowing what their break even is or where they're sitting? I mean, is there other frustrations out there?
I'll start with one. I think, and I have to understand that, marketing mistake 101 is I am not the customer. The customer has its own things. I think sometimes there's a complacency out there that says, I'm fine, or I like kind of the way it's being done today, and just maybe not the frustration of just not getting our message across and getting in front of enough folks to sort of spread the good word, shall we say, is the one thing I'd love nothing more than to be a book 24/7, 365 teaching this. And, we're getting there, but it does take, I don't know what our hit rate is when we're out here pitching it. When we're in front of farmers, the hit rate is really good, but in certain other venues, it isn't as good as I'd like it to be. I wish we could have a little more of a, just people kind of getting it right away and saying, all right, I want to do this.
Yeah, I would say probably my number one of the frustration might be that we're just how much stuff still gets sold to farmers, right? And we get in there, and there was stuff where the farmer doesn't understand what it's actually doing to their risk position, financial products, right? Because there's a ton of money. I know it's very close to my family, right? The more exotic the product, right, the more margin is, the more you don't understand it, right? And then there's some of these accumulators, they might have 4 or 5 strips of different options in them, right? And we don't know what the delta is. We finally got to the point where we said, look, if whoever's selling you this product can't tell you the delta on a regular basis of the product,
don't buy it.
Shouldn't be. Don't buy it. Okay, there are other ways to manage risk, right? You get talked into stuff, and we see, and then we a lot of times we end up at a farm because of the aftermath, right? And trying to get the farm, just cleared up and get them back on the right track, and it's a wonderful experience, right? Because our goal is to manage the risk of the farm. I always call farming a marathon, right? We want to be profitable year after year after year, and grow that profitability out. It's not this, we're going to hit a home run with this product or that product. And there's just a lot of stuff that gets sold out there, or a lot of, I don't know, stuff that I sometimes I'm almost like I need to leave the room, right? When we get into these discussions, I'm like, and you try to obviously be very respectful. But that's probably our frustration there. For our business, it's just growing like mad. We love it. I think, we just need to get the word out. We love to fill the class out. And this winter we're going to cap the class off because the office hours get to be a lot, right? You get a lot of people, and we love the office hours because it allows a student in the class to come right and bring their farm and their example. They put it right into the risk tracker. Now they start to get it because it's learned by doing, right? An example, which is, but it takes time, and so we have to cap the class.
And one of the ways we try to differ, we talk about the classes that are taught out there in a more academic sense, and they're important. Don't get me wrong, but what we really try to do, for sure, in our retaining relationships, but also in the class, is to get to understand what your capacities are, what your markets are, and create a little bit. I don't want to necessarily use the word fully customized, but bring all these things a little more specifically to what's going on, within the resources you have and the markets that you face, to tailor it a little bit more than just giving you rote knowledge on merchandising 101.
And of course, we always get back to those that are like, can you just advise me? Can you just market my crop? And I'm like, absolutely not. That is guaranteed. I'm going to lose, or I'm going to fail, because eventually I'm going to be wrong. Because if I was right all the time, we would be on this podcast.
Right.
But we know. So I'm absolutely, we don't advise. All we will do is teach. And, in our retained clients, we are very close to them, right? We don't take every farm, but if you're a farm that feels like you need that, or you've got multiple stakeholders on the farm and you want us out on the farm so you can all get on the same page, and there's some reasons that farms want to put us on the retained side, you just got to be you got to have that discipline around that thing. And for us, it's like Mike said, it's just, we need to just get out in front of more growers and fill up that class, and then we'll take a few retained clients along the way. Sometimes they come out of the class and they decide they want to do it because they're not far enough along in the class and they want to bring us into the farm, or they took the class and they're like, no, we need to get the other two members of this farming operation up to speed. But it's just such an important part, because if you look at margins in farming and you look at how it's played out, and I've also thought, we figure in corn, it's consistently great skills in the space are 20 to 30 cents a bushel consistently. Not, I had a great trade this year, not just by being a great merchant, world-class skills, and having those best practices locked in on managing the futures. Well, at 30 cents on 200 bushels, right, it's $60 an acre. Right. Farm 1,000 acres of corn.
Yeah, it's nice.
$60,000. And that is, we don't like to, Mike and I aren't the kind of guys that like to jump out and claim, but that has been our experience, right? We've been at this a while.
We've made that in one session. Sometimes
we've had some big settings.
What potential issues we're facing and or opportunities we're facing our clients. So
it's been so that's kind of where it's gotten to be a big deal. And we've had some farms come to us and it's like, if I know this, does that mean I can be more aggressive on rents and things like that? And I'm like, no, it's hard. But again, we're always getting sucked back. We advise, right? And we just have said, absolutely not. Our differentiation of this business is.
lost him for a second. Well, Mike.
He was going to say is the teaching side for sure and the knowledge asset side. So
perfect. Yeah. Hey, Mike, would you want to talk about your website?
Yeah,
and I'll put it up here and stuff.
Yeah,
so
our website is agrisacademy.com. Yeah, you got it up right there. I think right there in the front, you can reserve your spot. It's super easy. You can also, what I highly recommend anybody to do, even if you're on the fence, or just want to, get things from us, you can subscribe to our blog. We usually put out a pretty meaty piece of kind of what's going on in the market and how to assess it. We're in and around once a week. Like I said, right now it's kind of crazy for Jeff, but we do it. Again, we don't do it a lot because it can just kind of be tough to schedule. But we have hourly consultancy rates too for folks who maybe just want to stick their toe in the water with us before they commit. But and if you play around the tabs, there's all kinds of information on us, and we just have our phone numbers are on the right there in terms of how to find us. So and we have a general email, info@agrisacademy.com. If you just want, there's our phone numbers. Call me. It's right there. We kind of know how farmers roll too. Old school talking and face to face is important. So, it's actually been kind of great for me as farming's in my DNA, but I don't farm. But I've quickly learned that just when in doubt, just pick the darn phone up and call somebody. So it's right there on our website. Call us. We're also on X under Agris Academy too, and we try to, again, occasionally chime in if there's something really, really interesting going on in the markets or something else going on.
So I loved the whole conversation. There's no doubt about it, and we're kind of working backwards. Like I said, we just kind of go with the flow. But we've talked about Agris Academy. Let's talk about let's brag about yourself a little bit, Mike. Let's talk about some of your background. We haven't really done that.
No, totally fine.
Give us 5 minutes of, yourself.
Yeah. So I spent almost 20 years in Cargill and was fortunate to do just about everything you can do there commercially under the banner of Cargill. Did the usual 3 merchant roles in about 4+ years in the beginning. Central Illinois, and then export operation in Houston, and then came up to the U.S. In fact, Andrew, I was trading the Southwest domestic markets through a cluster of elevators in Cargill, and Hamburg was one of mine. So not too far from you, I'm sure. Then I got tapped on the shoulder to be the first guinea pig to be sent to Ukraine in '95. We had a rep office, and I was 26, single, and spoke Russian and was cheap and expendable. So off I went, but it ended up being one of the better jobs I ever had. I was there for 5 years. Came back, and as I already mentioned, I traded Cargill's East-U.S. corn position, which was basically all the non-river assets from Illinois on east through Indiana and Ohio. Jeff and I both went through what was Cargill Strategy and Business Development Group, which is a sort of it focused on corporate M&A and corporate sort of C-suite type strategy projects. They'd have 2 or 3 kind of lifers like us in the group, and then 6 or 8 full-time MBA. I'm not wired to maybe be a consultant in a way, like in a McKinsey or Bain type way, but it was a fantastic learning experience. Got my MBA. Jeff and I both got our MBAs at the Carlson School up here at the University of Minnesota. Then I went into ventures. And that's where I kind of got the venture bug. So I was in Cargill's venture space for about 5 years, and just got a little sick of the big company world, and was a little bit seeing the future as where Cargill's culture was going. So I just up and left one day. And then after that, I went through a series of 3 ag tech oriented ventures over the course of about 7, 8 years, and then was in venture capital for 5. And before Jeff and I kicked her off. So.
Did you and Jeff know each other before college?
Jeff and I knew each other. Jeff and I had this ether kind of connection from day one. He started a little bit after I did, but you could see Jeff from a mile away. He had the big. Oh, here he is.
Yeah, he's back.
Jeff had. You wouldn't know it by now, but Jeff had the sweetest mullet you ever seen. And so, in walks this guy on the trade floor with this just huge power mullet and a pair of cowboy boots, and I'm like, that's my kind of guy. And it turns out that I split my time growing up as a kid in between Kansas and Ohio, but he and I grew up 15 minutes apart north of Cincinnati. So we've been friends since about 92, 93, and always were looking for an excuse to work together.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
We lost him again.
Yeah.
Maybe we got audio. We don't know.
Yeah, the realities of. Oh.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Nope, we can hear you.
Yeah.
We can hear
you. Jeff, there you go.
We were just going with a little background, 5 minutes. So Mike kind of
I'm done.
We're just doing a brag session. So it's your turn to brag for 5 minutes about yourself and your background and how you came about all this.
Brag session. Well, I'm a first gen farmer and went to Ohio State for an undergrad. Started in the grain industry at 19 and kind of worked. I was a lifer. Learned just a ton. Got to see a lot of the world. Worked with some incredible people. When you start, working on a farm, and it takes all year to raise 50,000 bushels, and all of a sudden you're 19 and you buy that on a phone call. It was a eye opener. And got married along the way. I've got a wonderful wife, 3 kids, and have been growing the farming operation alongside. So we raise corn and soybeans in southern Ohio, and then I have a business to consumer B2C hay farm. We bale 25,000 small squares a year at our farm in Minnesota, and that's the short story of how we got here. And
Jeff did glaze over. He's run some of the biggest risk decks that you'll find anywhere in the world. So
we had a fun. I loved it. I mean, we got into Mike and I. If you ever want to have fun, you've been in some of these things. They'll feed them a few drinks and let them tell grain trading stories. Any merchandiser you meet along the way, and we have some great. Mike's got Ukraine stories to know, and I tell you, he always comes up with a new one that I never heard.
Awesome.
And
for me, Houston was a lot of good stories too.
Houston was good stories.
An export operation, all kinds of crazy stuff happens.
And making money is in trading. It's extremely hard in these really liquid markets. Like the CME. But where we really made a lot of money is when you take the discipline and expertise that you get taught, right, and they're just razor focus, and you go out and trade something that isn't liquid, that doesn't have a CME. Like I said, as farmers, we bitch about the CME all the time, or the USDA reports, right? But if you didn't have those, people like Mike and I would say perfect. Less transparency, the better, because we're going to know more about what it's worth. The largest single profitable trade I ever had was in fish oil, because you put a little bit of fish oil as the magic in salmon food. And when you're one of the largest producers of salmon feed in the world, right, you're a consumer, you understand more about it, what it's worth, than anybody else. And there's no CME talking about what it's worth out there. And
you can make your own weather.
You could make your own weather. You could change your ration, right? Change the blend in the ration and change the S&D. Right. And so we always talk about, hey, where can we get in a position and go out and quote make our own weather? And a lot of fun. And then for me coming in, is I also learned that I love to teach. So we had a program where we brought in, we could never find merchants or people with experience. So we started just going out and hiring athletes. And maybe this is a little bit, we do get into farm management, Mike and I do. We don't talk a lot, but when we hired what we call hiring athletes. We would hire people that just were really good at whatever discipline is. So I've had, I pulled a guy out of a second shift, engineering job at a crush plant. He wanted to become a trader, wanted to become a merchant. We had, finance.
The best trader I ever worked with was a fine arts major.
Yeah. But they just
go on the floor and Cargill and rattle off majors. A lot of ag econ, don't get me wrong, but 50% of them were philosophy, history, econ, French, whatever. Just there's a wiring going to Jeff's discussion of like the athlete.
Yeah. So when we hired, and this is maybe a good thing when you look for people to hire on a farm, right? You look for somebody. We wanted to hire for a couple things. We called it being. You got to be smart. Okay, this is a smart business, right? I always said you need processor speed, and but you also had to be humble. So we always looked for smart and humble. Smart was just a base thing, but humble was important. Humble was because if you're not humble, these markets will humble you eventually, right? So being humble in the face of a market, being humble enough to learn from somebody else, right? To be taught, right? And listen and work and do the homework and that thing. And the third part of ours was be humble to teach the next group, the next people coming in. So that was a kind of our secret recipe to hiring merchants. And that's how we look at it even now is, that's the kind of people we want to surround ourselves with, those people that are smart and humble, to go out and do their business. And, on the farm, as we think about who we want, we're trying to hire people and, how do you find that person that may not have that farm background, right? It's getting hard to find, right? But are they smart? And are they humble, right? And I think that's, to me, has been the biggest winning combination that builds just, a good, strong leader and a good, strong skill set. And I think it applies out on the farm too. Yeah, we see a lot because we work with a lot of farms. We do see a lot on the farm management side too, and how to retain people or how to hire people. That's one of the pieces of the puzzle.
Okay. Awesome.
We give you we give.
Yeah,
I don't know,
go ahead, Jeff.
No, I don't. I don't think I have anything more. I think we've pounded away, right? That the thing we struggle with the most is most people think we're brokers or advisors, and that's probably our biggest struggle. So we always come back to that point that no, we're educators. We're going to teach the class. It's one time, right? We're not there to be forever, billing the farm. And you learn it and it's yours for life. Mike and I didn't have to do this. We did it. We'd always wanted to do something together for a long, long time. And this came up and we're like, this is it. Perfect.
Yep.
So thanks for having us on, guys.
Thanks for coming on. And I'd say that Andrew and I aren't like you and Mike but we wanted to start a podcast just to kind of do this, get info out there. We're not looking to become rich or anything. We just want people to learn, listen, learn from each other. That's the biggest thing. Farmers are so set in their ways and don't want to share, but we need to share more. You don't have to give away all your secrets, and especially if you're going to grow, 600 bushel corn. I don't expect you to tell me how you did it, but there's other things and that we can share, and we're definitely going to share this as much as we can and get your guys' name out there and do all we can to help. So thank you for being.
One more thing, I guess we didn't put this, and you can cut this in. If you want to find us,
we went to
agrisacademy.com.
Yeah,
you guys went
that.
Okay, sorry, I was jumped up.
When you disappeared, we had
power catastrophe.
I think it's great. You guys are out farming. It happens, Hey, if there's more way to show the reality of farming, no better way than right now.
Right.
Was that my favorite Belgian Malinois barking out there, Jeff? Does she miss me?
Yeah. A free dog is like a free bag of corn, right? It's the most expensive thing you're ever going to deal with, right? The free bag of seed and the free Belgian police dog that somebody gave my father. Yes.
She misses me. I get it.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're going to jump out.
Yep.
Thanks you guys.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Stay in touch.
Thanks,
you bet.
We will, definitely. Thanks.